120 miles northwest of Las Vegas, Nevada, in Groom Lake, stands an open training field for U.S. Air Force. This base unit is restricted to the public and has armed guards patrolling the perimeter. It is also impossible to enter the airspace without permission from air traffic control. This base unit goes by names like Paradise Ranch or Dreamland, but is more commonly known as Area 51.
My name is Elena Saladin, and I'm here with
Gracie Coble
And Wesley Miller.
And we are the people behind Tinfoil Tales, a group of students who love talk conspiracy theories and mysteries. Let's go over some background information on Area 51. On April 12, 1955, CIA officer Richard Bissell sees the site for the first time while on an aerial scouting mission. Later that year in July, Bissell, along with 3 others, including Colonel Osmond Ritland and Kelly Johnson, thought it would be a good site for U-2 training pilot testing. By November of 1957, a radar test facility is established. Now, the first thing that made Area 51 an area of mystery and skepticism wasn't until March 6 of 1976, when a citizen suit between former employees at Area 51 and the Department of Defense was filed for alleged violations of Resource Conservation and Recovery Act in the storage, treatment, and disposal of hazardous waste at the opening location of Groom Lake. However, just a few months later, the court determines that the administrator of the EPA completed her statutory duties with regard to the inspection and inventory of the opening location near Groom Lake, which brings us to our first discussion. Would this make either of you skeptical of the facility right off the bat?
There's not a whole lot to go off of here in general. I mean, it could just be a case of maybe these Area 51 employees were maybe they ended up quitting and they had, because they found some grievance against the Area 51 higher-ups, and they wanted to maybe get back at them, and that's the first thing they thought of for that. But there could be legitimate concerns with that too. I don't want to take that away at all, but there's not a whole lot to go off of that. It could just be a thing of, they're trying to cover it up just for the sake of reputation. But as it stands, just that suit alone, not really anything too suspicious behind it.
So I would say that this would make me at least a little bit skeptical of the parameters, especially since this is such a big topic. Mm-hmm. I understand, Wes, you said there's not really a ton of information to back it up and stuff like that.
That's fair.
However, with this being such a big topic, I don't think that it would be such a thing for people to lie about, so to say.
I agree. I think it is very strange as the government agency with hazardous waste and improper disposal of that. I think that's also very odd. It made me kind of skeptical, at least.
Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah, I see where you guys are coming from for that, for sure. Yeah.
Now, in July of 1947, the U.S. Air Force used balloons to detect Soviet nuclear tests, a project they called Project Mogul. Debris of one of these balloons was found in Roswell, New Mexico, and fast forward almost 40 years to 1994, new conspiracy theories about Project Mogul began to surface because of a book titled The Roswell Incident. This book was written by a retired Air Force officer named Jesse Marcel, who reveals the balloon story was all a cover-up and the debris from the balloon was actually from a UFO, and it's all just evidence of extraterrestrial life. So do we think that this book was a book a man tried to make up a story, or do we think it's true?
I personally think, while I believe in aliens and I would love for it to be true.
No, I understand that too.
I would love the conspiracies to be true.
Yes.
However, I do think this very well could be a circumstance of the man just trying to get money off of a funny little story.
Yeah.
Which could be very sad for me personally.
Right. Yeah. I'm a little bit in the same boat with you on that. There is definitely a possibility for aliens out there and everything too. I don't really think there's any evidence against that we have anyways, but I think in this case it could have just been, it seems more likely that it was just some retired Air Force vet looking to have a good time, looking to make a little money 40 years after the fact as well. Why wait that long?
No, but also why wait that long? So maybe that means that it is true. I mean, maybe he was gathering his evidence.
I kind of feel like if this was true and it was all a cover-up, I feel like he wouldn't write a book about it. I feel like he'd go try to find, like, I don't know, I just feel like a book wouldn't be, like, my first thought if I had this, like, deep piece of information about what the government's hiding. I feel like I'd go run to, like, a news source. Like, I would not write a book. So that makes me feel like he kind of made it up. But I think that it's really interesting. It doesn't end with Roswell, though. In 2012, the Pentagon's secret UFO office spends over $22 million over 5 years collecting and analyzing what they consider to be anomalous aerospace threats. Now, with all this information, how do we feel about Area 51? Like, what do you think is going on there?
If we're talking about the Pentagon, which is one of the biggest parts of the U.S. government's military like strategy or power or stuff, just like a lot of the stuff goes on in the Pentagon for that stuff specifically. I think the fact that a military base being connected to the Pentagon for that just so happens to be the site of a lot of different UFO sightings or just anomalous happenings for that. I think there could be a connection for that. Whether or not the Pentagon specifically, like, directly communicates back and forth between Area 51 or not about some of these things, I don't know 100% sure, but it's not out of the question, I think.
I'm gonna say I don't think it's a big coincidence. I really don't. I don't think that you could compile this many governmental aspects together and make that a coincidence. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's too many things going on between these two, specifically the Pentagon and especially Area 51, where you can't, like, really dismiss it.
I think it's interesting how, like, the more information I found about it, like, it's like the more unsure I get. I'm not even swayed either way. Like, I think it's so weird.
Like, there's evidence for it, there's evidence against it. Like, the fact that a lot of different organizations tried, well, mostly just Area 51 and maybe part of the Pentagon for that, is trying to cover up or at least study stuff about this, about the anomalous aerospace threats, I think is pretty interesting. Like, you can't really say that there's nothing going on for that. Like, but the extent of that we can't really see because there is still stuff that's being covered up, whether for security reasons or just maybe to keep the wool under our eyes or something. I don't know.
Exactly.
I am also, like, a firm believer in aliens. Like, I just don't think that there is a way that we are the only living thing in, like, the galaxy. Like, there's no, like, even if it's like a single cell organism or plant or something, like, there's just no way we are the only life in the there's just no way. So I feel like
just because we haven't seen evidence of intelligent life out in the galaxy and stuff, or in the universe in general, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just that maybe we haven't really given them a reason to have us communicate, or maybe they just tried to communicate and got swept under the rug. Who knows? It really could all just be a theory, but what if it isn't?
Well, that concludes today's episode. Thank you for joining us, and happy theorizing.